Saying everybody, this is my Sinful Sunday broadcast for October. I hope everybody's doing well. This is an important month for the Brotherhood of Satan, needless to say, and dark witches and druids and dark pagans everywhere, I might as well add, because it is the month for our celebrating the Grand High Sabbath, which is Samhain, of course, also known as Halloween to the lay people out there. And it's our Grand High Sabbath ritual, the top spoke on the wheel of the year, the sabbatical wheel of the year. It's a time when the veil's the thinnest, next to Walpurgis. Very, very powerful time. The beginning of our year, New Year, it's also our Witches' New Year, is also the end of our previous year. So this is a very important time, needless to say. A lot of spooky occurrences happen this month. Why? Do the spooky experiences occur because it is Samhain's month, or is it just because the veil's thinning? It's a little bit of both, right? It's a very, very powerful time. This month, we have Samhain coming up rather quickly on us. We just returned from an offline autumnal equinox event, which is really, really cool, actually, where everybody stepped up and everybody was able to shine as individual Satanists. But we're real close to Samhain, so this is a month, Drew's going to have some interesting things to speak about, of course. But today, in my Sinful Sunday broadcast and in my little book of Devilish Deeds, my Master Council book of Devilish Deeds, today we're going to discuss the Devil's Workshop. Does it really exist? Okay. The answer to that question is yes, the Devil's Workshop does exist. Okay. Let Drew explain it to you. There's a saying that the idle mind makes the devil's workshop, right? Or the devil's workshop is the idle mind. The real truth of it is the devil's workshop has nothing to do with the mind that's idle. Okay. Because a mind that's idle is not a mind that's doing anything for Satan. So therefore, the idle mind has no place in the devil's workshop. Because in the devil's workshop, you have the minds that are fully attuned to Satan, doing the work of Satan in the devil's workshop. There, I just opened the devil's workshop as a master counsel. Now, the devil's workshop is actually a place that the true Satanist goes to actually plan and to sort out projects that they want to do on behalf of Satan or behalf of the satanic organization that they represent, or on behalf of their own self as a Satanist. So the devil's workshop, it's not a figment of imagination, everybody. The devil's workshop is connected right here with your black flame Satan and, of course, your satanic psyche. There's where the Satan's and the devil's workshop actually exists, right? The devil's workshop is the place where all the thought form patterns on behalf of Satanism will come through from the other side. It could be messages that are channeled from the demons themselves, or it could be messages channeled by the mother of the Brotherhood, Lilith, or even our master Satan. And these things will come through to us as an individual Satanist on an individual level. So the devil's workshop, being an active workshop, right, you would have to be somebody that's an apprentice of the devil who entered the devil's workshop prepared to do things that's going to enhance Satanism, or that's going to help Satanism not stagnate, but actually grow, and those kind of things. In short, the satanic or the devil's workshop is that place that each of us as an individual Satanist can go to determine the things that are most important to us when it comes to our own satanic journey and the things that we may want to pass on to other Satanists. This is the place to determine those things. It is the devil's workshop. And the devil's workshop absolutely exists. It absolutely exists. All real Satanists, particularly those that enter satanic leadership, are the apprentices of Satan. We're in that workshop, working on those projects, those things we want to bring into fruition and manifestation for Satan, the organization we represent, or as I said earlier, our own personal selves. Devil's workshop is important, but it really does exist. And no, it's not for the idle mind. Satan wants the devil's workshop, the participants of the devil's workshop, to actually be people that are actually going to learn from the things that they've developed in that devil's workshop and then actuate them into their life, bring them into their lives, that they can live these things. Drew in general becomes the devil's workshop to Drew. Everything Drew does is part of the devil's workshop. Why? Because I listen to the master, knowing I'm a satanic apprentice of the master's. Goes back to what Drew said originally about every Satanist, even in leadership, when you reach a certain level, right? We're still one thing, though. We're still disciples of Satan. Those that have to learn how to discipline ourselves, to learn our rituals, do them properly, be able to raise energy and those kind of things. That's where the word disciple comes from, discipline. It's a satanic discipline. Well, it's the same thing with visiting the devil's workshop, because you're actually going to receive these gifts from Satan, these things that are channeled through to you, for you to put on your workbench in the devil's workshop. Freemasonry call that a trestle board. It's the things that we want to accomplish for the Masonic craft or even the satanic craft, correct? So the devil's workshop and your actual workbench becomes your trestle board in the universal scope of things, speaking geometrically, of course. So the devil's workshop has always been very, very important. But no, if you enter the devil's workshop and you are idle, an idle mind, then nothing's flowing through. Your creative juices are not flowing for Satan. Those creative things that come to you from the demons and from the master and from our mother are those things that we must enhance, okay? We must come to comprehend those. Where we comprehend those is in the devil's workshop itself, where we learn to master certain things that we learn as apprentices in the devil's workshop. Now, as individual Satanists, we must always talk about satanic philosophy. So another place where the satanic or devil's workshop comes into being is our own persona as a Satanist. That devil's workshop is within us. Just like Satan's black flame is housed in our own personal satanic temple as a human being and as a Satanist. Okay? Many things are going to come to you that come from the devil's workshop. You may or may not be aware that these things are being channeled through for you to create your own thought form pattern. Create yourself that spiritual room. This is where satanic manifestation comes in greatly, right? Well, that spiritual room can also be likened as, again, the devil's workshop. It's that spiritual room that you've placed your visualizational magic and your creative visualization magic toward when you want to manifest something from the demonic realm. So that spiritual place, that spiritual room, can also be likened as the devil's workshop Oh, absolutely. Because it's a place where these satanic projects, whether on an overall scope for an organization or as an individual, where those projects are actually designed, right? The first place that you've actually have placed that satanic thought form pattern when it gets channeled through to you. That's the devil's workshop. Absolutely is. Now, the devil does not want, Satan does not want idle people in leadership. And so, therefore, being idle or lazy within the devil's workshop doesn't work. It doesn't work. Satan returns favor for what you do for Satan. This is an absolute fact. It's an absolute fact. I can't tell you how many Satanists out there feel Satan owes them something, or their sisters and brothers owe them something. No. Who you are, what you become as a Satanist is all determined by one thing: you. You. So in that devil's workshop, there's your place. A place for you to go from time to time on a more spiritual level to sort out these different things, these designs, and these things and projects that come to you in full circle, right? Because they're either going to come from that full circle, they're going to come from what? That infinity. Because it's all part of the same. It's all part of the whole. And the whole is Satan. The whole Satan. The devil's workshop. Wow. It can cover a lot of things. It covers everything you do as an individual Satanist. Any goals you have, the things you want to manifest, the very magic that you and things that you live, it all becomes a devil's workshop. So you have an external devil's workshop and you have an internalized devil's workshop. The externalized is what I call the physical plane of the devil's workshop. And then the internal, of course, is what? Right. The spiritual manifestation of the devil's workshop. So the devil's workshop teaches us everything about Satan and Satanism. But it's a special place that only we can go on an individual level as Satanists. If you go to the devil's workshop to participate in things that Satan wants you to do, things that are called infernal ordinance, where are you going to understand what infernal ordinance is? I'll tell you where you're going to understand about infernal ordinance. When the brother uses those terms, it means something. Infernal ordinance means it was already designed by Satan. It was a satanic origin. It was of satanic origin, not human satanic origin as a Satanist. So the devil's workshop, never be idle in the devil's workshop. The apprentices that come into the devil's workshop that are idle, they're lazy, they don't go anywhere. They're going to be kicked out as an apprentice. That's a fact. And you must start at the devil's workshop as an apprentice to later become what? That's a master. The devil's workshop is like the craft guilds, where you learn a craft and you progress through your learning of a craft. This is a fact. And the devil's workshop is something that's not generally talked about, right? I think a lot of people don't even understand what the devil's workshop is. Okay. So again, Drew's going to be the one who's going to go out and talk about some of the things that aren't being talked about. But it's meant to give you the personal thought form as an individual Satanist to think about these things. That's what Drew does. Drew's a way shower. I'm not somebody who tells you what to do. or dictates to you how to believe or any of that stuff. But I am giving you these thought forms for a reason, right? Because we want you to be a person that understands the devil's workshop does exist. It does. Here and here. Very, very important to understand what the devil's workshop really is, right? It's going to be the place that those messages come over to us from the demonic dimensions. Sometimes it doesn't just come directly to us. It comes in through the what? The devil's workshop. It comes in through the different tasks and assignments and jobs we take upon ourselves for those of us that want to be productive apprentices in the devil's workshop. That's souls that produce for Satan. That's how important the devil's workshop really is. It is the place, the infernal hatical realm where the devil speaks to us. And if you enter that workshop with that open mind that Satan wants you to do, and you are a believer, 100 or 666% a believer in Satan, that's going to be the catalyst that opens those doors. Now, the devil's workshop is meant for not being idle, like I said, it's meant for being creative in a satanic sense. Creative for Satan. What do you think Drew comes up with so many of these satanic ideas and he knows what to talk about? I'm connected to the devil's workshop. Absolutely. Before I ever became a master of anything in Satanism or in the occult world, it was because I showed that dedication first. And I continued with it. I never stopped in that dedication. It's been my life's path. It'll remain that way. You're the one who has that opportunity, a unique opportunity now, to become a part of the devil's union. Wow, does the devil have a union? Well, Drew might tell you it's Local 13. United Satanic Union. USU. Absolute. A devil's workshop is never complete without having the different work, okay? The different things and projects and assignments that actually come from Satan's own book that Satan wishes to share with us here in the physical plane. Here in the physical plane. If you remain working in that devil's workshop like Drew has his whole life, you will be very, very surprised at the things that come out. Okay, the things that you're going to learn. Because you have said, look, Satan, I understand. As much as I know, and putting a lifetime into things, I'm still your apprentice. I'm still the devil's advocate. What makes the best devil's advocate is the satanic apprentice who works in Satan's or the devil's workshop actively on a regular basis and wants to perfect their infernal work on an individual satanic philosophical level. That's how important the devil's workshop really is. It's that place that's between our world and the realm of the demons and the realm of our master and mother. A stopping off place of sorts, although Drew visits there on a regular basis. So you will be the one that determines the scope of the projects and the infernal ordinance of Satan that comes from the devil's workshop itself. You'll be the one that determines that on an individual level. As an individual Satanist, that's an apprentice in the devil's workshop, seeking to understand and learn more about the master and learning more about becoming masters and mistresses ourselves. This is the place to tap into. You tap into that current. The devil's workshop, just like the Brotherhood organization, is a frequency for you to understand, a vibration for you to tap into. Once you realize everything is energy, you'll start understanding the reciprocal currents and how they work. Everything about the Brotherhood organization is this vibration. Every single one of us that's an individual member, everything is all part of that current and that vibration. What we reflect, the things we learn in the devil's workshop, and we accentuate into our lives, is what others are going to see from us. The things we learn in the devil's workshop are what we're going to later reflect in our interaction as leaders or as regular Satanists out there in the world. We reflect the things we learn as a satanic apprentice in the devil's workshop. Absolutely the truth. Again, this is an exciting time. I'm not here to take up everybody's time today, but I'm glad to be back on my Sinful Sunday broadcasts. Drew's all about the thought-provoking questions and the answers, but legitimate answers, genuine answers, authentic answers, truthful answers. The devil's workshop, when you're being taught in the devil's workshop, you're not being taught to present falsehood. That's not part of the devil's workshop at all. Satan wants you to present satanic truth. Satanic truth. Okay. The Brotherhood, Drew, Raven, people like us, we have no ulterior motive to do anything. The best satisfaction that I have as a satanic elder is when I see my family. That's the whole Brotherhood of Satan new generation. And a lot of Brotherhood of Darkness members to boot. When I see my family excelling on a personal level, on their own personal level, Drew, as an elder, says, okay, the things I'm being taught in the devil's workshop that I am being able to pass on to others, it can be seen. It can be seen, it can be felt. Because it is legitimate, it is genuine. There's different degrees of knowledge, just like there's going to be different degrees of dedication in Satanism. For one reason or another, we all have an individual path to make of our own and to walk that path ourselves. Mine is not to just walk the path, but to be the path. Now, when you can make that statement and be honest to yourself and to Satan when you're saying it, then you're learning something from the devil's workshop. Oh, absolutely. It's the devil's workshop. That's the special place that Drew is told about unity. That Drew knows what Satan wants done. It's because of those satanic infernal ordinances of Satan's that I would never even understand or comprehend had I not spent my time in the devil's workshop. Absolutely the truth. Again, the idle mind is not what Satan wants. The analytical mind, the creative mind, the mind that thinks for itself, the unplugged mind that doesn't go for the herd mentality that's being pushed out there. You're not going to find that herd mentality or any kinds of syndromes like that within the devil's workshop ever. Why? It's the devil's workshop. Before it's ours, it's Satan's workshop. We always discuss Satanism in a little bit more of a higher level than some of the other orgs do, because Drew and Raven like to say we're the craft of Satanism. Why? Because we're a satanic craft. We craft our lives in our Satanism. We craft what we live. We live our craft. These comments about apprenticeship and Satan being the master, they're designed for one reason, and that's for you to come to grips with what we're trying to pass on to you about how important that your placement and your entering as an apprentice in the devil's workshop really is to you as an individual Satanist. You're going to come to that time when you're standing there and you're going to be at that door. You have a chance to go into the devil's guild, which is his workshop, the devil's workshop itself, where you can learn to be master, where you can learn how to master many, many different aspects of being a Satanist, living their satanic craft. After an apprentice's work is done and they've done a great job, you then see them as a craftsman. They have perfected their work. What that basically means is they've learned from Satan, from Satan's own infernal ordinance, as the one being the real instructor. And then you take it into your satanic life. And you live a life 666% dedicated to Satan and to yourself as a Satanist. Drew's never going to be out of that devil's workshop, whether I've mastered many things or not, because the master is yet a student and the student is yet a master. And if you go beyond that and you start being so full of yourself to not understand you're still a student, well, let me tell you a few facts. There is no know-it-alls in Satanism or the left-hand path, because it's a living vibration. We're learning constantly, as it should be. I often say one of the gravest mistakes Satanism makes is the stagnation we see in Satanism. Whether they're trying to keep people separate from each other, whether they got the atheistic, theistic fucking controversy going on constantly, trying to dispel beliefs in unity. Oh, unity will never work. Unity never exists. We already proved it exists, by the way. That's stagnating everything. It has nothing to do with anything that the devil passes on to us to understand, right? So that we can become stronger, not just as individual Satanists, but as individual Satanists that know when to come together if we needed to, and when. The devil's workshop is so important. Come with Drew. Come along with Drew to the devil's workshop. You'll have your chance some point or another. Because Satan and their mother Lilith, they're gonna take an interest in you. All it takes is you showing a real dedication to them. Not lip service. Not, oh, I'm online this week, I'm playing Satanist this week online. But you do nothing, absolutely nothing offline to really be a Satanist. You think online's more important than offline? You're wrong. Online's important because of representation and being out there for people to reach an organization like the Brotherhood that's been the most secretive generational organization of Satanists in the world forever, till we finally came public in 2003, to give people a chance to find us. Not so much because we were attention seekers. We've never been that. Real Satanists aren't attention seekers. Nope. But we have plenty to do for Satan. That's an absolute truth. Rather than to be an attention seeker, be somebody that's a wise teacher out there, someone known for what they do and what they live. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Remember what I said. The idle mind is not a part of the devil's workshop at all. The analytical, creative mind is. That's where you're going to get the true, sincere messages from the other side, from Satan and the demons, is in that devil's workshop. That's going to be your own place, your own satanic place, where you design the things that you want to accomplish, not only for yourself in your satanic personal life, but for Satan overall. So many people are for their individualism only. What about Satan? What about our mother Lilith? I'm going to go a step further. They actually demand that we do things right. They're not asking us. And how dare we ever demand from them? Serious mistake. I've seen some leaders get so full of themselves, their egos are bigger than the Grand Canyon. And they start to think they're more important than Satan or our mother Lilith. Ultimately, guess what? Drew's seen it many, many, many times. The demons will bite them in the ass. So when you knock on the door of the devil's workshop as an apprentice, you want to do it with a real dedication and sincerity for Satan and the mother, first and foremost. The rest will become second nature. You'll start getting the ideas channeled through, because that's your special place. From being the apprentice in the devil's workshop, that's when you start becoming a master. And that's when it's all being brought within yourself into your own temple that houses your own black flame of Satan. Your temple. The vehicle. That's the internal vehicle to live Satanism. Now, the other externalization of living Satanism would be the organization that you decide you have an affinity with and you would like to join. I've been around many, many years. And knock on wood with my master council gavel, I've got many, many more to go. But do you think for 1 minute that Drew is not passing on what he learned as an apprentice in the devil's workshop? Yes, I do. As I said, probably the majority of what Drew gets channeled through to him, tells him what to teach sometimes, what to do, how to treat people, how to interact with people, even satanic psychology. It all comes from the devil's workshop. My knowledge of these things. Because not only did my family raise me into the old ways, the old satanic ways of generational Satanism, but Satan taught me too. And my mother Lilith taught me along the way. I owe everything to them. Who I am today. Everything. The apprentice that enters the devil's workshop with the right kind of satanic soul will be the apprentice that becomes a satanic master. Everybody, I've got some good things we're going to talk about next week too. How to Become a Satanist in 13 Easy Steps by Druwydion Pendragon. Wow, that should be an interesting one, huh? Oh, it absolutely is. And it does talk about the new apprentice or the new Satanist. It's, in fact, the whole class, you want to call it that, discussion will be about and geared towards new Satanists and the actual things that make you a Satanist. Okay. Yeah, I said it. Now, I hope everybody has a great October. Like I said, it's going to culminate with the Grand High Sabbath ritual. The Brotherhoods do various things all over the country at this time of year. Um, Raven and I are going to be in South Carolina for Brotherhood of Darkness major meeting and ritual. There's more than that going on. We have things going on here at the national office too. Um, and when you're out there in your satanic travels, guys, support what your sisters and brothers are doing. The ones of us that are genuine and that are doers, support them. Show them your support. Solidarity in Satanism is important too. Because of that solidarity and that strength and that satanic unity that we all now know is a fact. Because of that, it's going to be really a tough row to hoe for the atheistic Satanists to keep discounting theistic Satanism. We are going to be the satanic movement, guys. We're already on the way. The satanic movement. The ones bringing in real members, people that really want to be part of Satanism, of an organization of Satanists, and they're looking for a home. You would think Satanists are mostly loners. We are in a lot of ways as individuals, but yet we're not. We still do gravitate to guess who? Others of like mind. That's total natural law, first of all. And then people that think that natural law is not a part of Satanism just don't know anything. It factors into Satanism and everything on this planet all the time. All of the time. Okay. So again, remember, being a part of the devil's workshop, a worker that knows what they're doing, is perfecting their work for Satan and for themselves. Those apprentices will be masters. Your time for being a master will be there. But don't be so full of yourself not to honor Satan first, okay? And understand Satan gives us those powers. We have latent powers individually as individual Satanists. It comes through our DNA. That's an absolute fact as well. But those other powers that we receive that are not from the ancestral sources, that you know are from demonic or sources or from Satan, it's a whole different story then. Be a Satanist that's not afraid to knock on the door to be an apprentice in the devil's workshop. And for some of you, the devil's workshop's right there around the corner. You don't even know it's there. As you continue to grow and become as a Satanist, these things will become more apparent to you. You'll understand a lot more. Each soul evolves on its own and on its own merits and the different lessons we learn, not just in one lifetime, but lifetimes. So Drew knows he's been an apprentice in the devil's workshop more than one life, most likely. More than one life, most likely, absolutely. Okay. And in each time, each lifetime for Drew, I individually became a master. In each individual lifetime. The main reason I became a master is I was willing to listen. Listen in order to learn. Oftentimes, we just want to talk and drown over everybody else and not even learn something. We're too full of ourselves. We can't get by the own personal demon that's us. I can make or break you. Sometimes you face that personal demon right after initiation. Sometimes it can be later in your satanic career as a leader. But it will come for you. And that's your test. Did your initiation really take? Did something really start developing in that black flame that resides in your own corporal body, your own satanic temple? Did it take? And again, be the type of satanic leader that understands that each one of us is at a different level of understanding and knowledge. But it makes no one better than the other. Nobody. To Satan, we all belong to Satan. To Satan, we're all Satan's children. The day we start learning to respect each other as Satan's infernal children is the day we're really respecting Satan, our Lord and Master. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Don't be an idle person in the devil's workshop. Be an apprentice that learns and that listens and then takes the things that they've learned in the devil's workshop into their lives and use it in a practical sense every day, every living breath that you have as a Satanist. Live each day honoring Satan. Each day. We're born. From the minute we're born, we're heading back to death. I know this for a fact. I play death this time of year. I am death. It's the whole harvest season. Make sure that you are a Satanist that brings a harvest to last. You do that by becoming a good apprentice in the devil's workshop. And then bringing everything that you've learned in the devil's workshop into your life as a Satanist. Thanks, everybody, for your time. Drew can talk for hours, as everybody knows. Sometimes I say I'm a little long-winded. But sometimes there's a certain way to explain things. And a lot of times it's better to go into deeper measure than the shallow measure. You got to say things and teach people in a certain manner to where they do fully understand what you're saying to them. Because you want them, and ultimately, as individual Satanists, in the end, to determine their own decisions and their own personal choices in life. That's what Drew champions first and foremost. Your own individuality. But no, the idle mind does not make the devil's workshop. Okay? No. The devil's workshop is for the analytical and creative satanic soul that will learn later to move from the devil's apprentice to a master. Hail Satan, hail yourself. Don't forget to hail Satan first before you hail yourself, right? Like Drew says every week. And live long and prosper. Again, a happy October to all of you, 2024. And look forward to some more interesting things before the end of this witch's year's over with. We will also be broadcasting live from the national office close to Samhain with something special. I'm not letting the black cat out of the bag at the moment, but we will be. Hail Satan, hail yourselves, hail the Brotherhood. And again, please place the importance of who Satan is and who Lilith is, and stop forgetting them and putting them in a secondary measure of everybody. It doesn't please them when we do that. At all. So, hail Satan. Make sure everybody lives long and prosper, right? I want y'all to have good health and good cheer too. And remember something. No one determines your satanic path but you. It's great there's luminaries like Drew around. I'll give you something to think about. And that's what I want to do. Not to dictate to you, but to give you some thought, some food for thought on the satanic table. Wow. There are some very, very powerful satanic energies going on. You done? There are some very, very powerful satanic things going on right now. And understand it's not the imagination of any one of us Satanists that these things are happening. They're happening for a reason. It is our time. It is now the new age of Satan. No, it wasn't back in the 60s. Oh, hell no. It wasn't the age of Aquarius then either. It was the dawning of the age of Aquarius and the dawning of Aquarian consciousness back then. But here we are. Now is the new age of Satan. We determine how Satan's new age will be. Satan has an infernal ordinance, and I, for one, will follow that ordinance that Satan wants done. Leadership's not for everybody. Sometimes it's a tough road to hoe. Drew has sacrificed a lot in his life. Again, what kind of harvest will you leave behind yourself? There's the question this time of year. Hail Satan.